Hi, Sagittarius Sun and Rising. Welcome to a video on the transit of Jupiter in the sign of Aries. As a Sagittarian Sun myself, I keep forgetting that this is actually going to happen because usually I'm focused on my rising sign of Taurus and not on my sun sign. But the sun sign can benefit from this trine, which is occurring when you have two fire signs in or aspecting one another. Now, this is going to occur, this Jupiter and Aries transit, in the fifth house for Sag. And that just makes it even better because of what that represents. The fifth house is the house that Leo rules. So this is a fire house in the universal chart, and this is the house of creativity, the house of love, and the house of pleasure. So Jupiter just enhances these things. And as you probably know, Jupiter is the ruler of Sag. So we have a particular affinity, whether sun or rising, to Jupiter. And so when there is a Jupiter transit, we sit up and take notice because of that. And so Jupiter, because it increases the things of a particular house, we can look forward to more pleasurable activities, more fun. That's a good way of putting it. And in terms of creativity, I'm a creative person, and I'm looking forward to this transit because Jupiter can make an artist more prolific. And also, this can even lead to prominence. You might get recognized for your artistic output as well. And that would be really awesome. This is a time that I want to give a shout out to cafeastrology.com, where I am deriving these bits of information. And one of the things that they say is that your projects could even, they said that you might be original in your self-expression, which I'm not quite sure why. Oh yeah, it's probably because the fifth house is about creative self-expression. So Jupiter just can enhance that. So that's probably where they were going with that. At first I was a little bit wondering. I always associate originality with something to do with Uranus. But yeah, I got that one. And then the other big area is love. And so the fifth house is about love itself. So even if somebody is married, I think that the idea of love is an optimistic idea. They talk about this idea of, falling in love and maybe having that kind of an affair, because I think the fifth house is more of an affair. The seventh house is more of creativity. How they phrase it is, meeting someone who isn't necessarily partnership material. That's how they put it on Cafe Astrology. And that to me, suggests having kind of this fling. And that is definitely what the fifth house can be, because the fifth house can be recreational sex. So that's where the pleasure angle comes in as well. But you might meet somebody who is that person for you, and there's that sense of freedom, because Jupiter is about that. Or maybe they're a Sagittarian. I mean, that's another thing. You can look at what sign rules the planet that is transiting, and it could be that type of individual. And certainly for Sag or Sag rising, this may be exactly the type of person that you're looking for, that you can commit to eventually, because they have a very, they give you a very long leash, let me put it that way. Another thing along these lines is that, and this is what I was alluding to before, I don't see this here that they're mentioning, but I will mention, is that with people who are coupled and sometimes maybe a little bit jaded about what they have experienced in their relationship, I feel like this can give an expansive view on love. And, just based on things that I have read and heard and even seen demonstrated, I think a lot of people have a distorted view on love and what it really entails. And that a lot of people are looking for somebody to love them instead of having that generosity of spirit to be able to love. Instead of getting one's own needs met from another person, that they are freely giving of their own affection. And so when people kind of flip the script that way and they stop looking for somebody to give them something and they just freely give it, I think it comes back to them anyway. But it's not a calculation is the point. It's being done because a person really feels like that is what love is all about. Beyond romance, this is a time where social engagements may increase, so that, I would say like parties and things like that. And you're deriving pleasure from this. It's not an obligation. Also, I would include anything that you enjoy, because the fifth house can be hobbies. And so if you do like to do certain things, like maybe sporting events, or if you are interested in art, maybe you don't produce it yourself, but you enjoy appreciating it, calling all you Libras out there, you may be going to more art galleries or maybe going to the theater more. This is a time just to enjoy life, because, when you think about it, then next year in 2023, when Jupiter goes into the sixth house, it could be like a lot of work, Hopefully it's pleasurable work that you enjoy. Well, it will be with Jupiter there. You'll take pleasure in your work. But right now, it's kind of like that time in between when you're poised to get more down to brass tacks, and you can just really have a lot of fun for some reason. And the other thing that the fifth house is about is children and conceiving children. So obviously not everybody's going to be able to identify with that. Pregnancy, this is a time, maybe you'll be more fertile during this time with Jupiter. Or maybe have twins or triplets, when you thought you were going to just have one child, with that expansion angle. And if you're, let's say you're of retirement age, or even, you don't even have to be you could be in your 50s and be a grandparent, right? So maybe you're enjoying grandchildren, and that is like kind of hitting the jackpot for you, because you love children so much, and now you get to have grandchildren. One thing too, I kind of touched upon it. If you're an athlete, this is really good for, I don't know if the fifth house is competitive sports. It could be, but this could be good for athletes as well. And this is the fifth house is a house of speculation. So, stock in stock investments, you might increase your profits with those. And if you do take a risk that isn't too, risky, you could see financial gain. But what they mention is be wary of being too confident. Overconfidence is associated with Jupiter. Being kind of cocky and just thinking that you can just do anything, and then you end up losing. And was there something else? Oh, well, what I was going to say with investments, I've heard that the fifth house is gambling. Well, you could say investing is gambling too. In the stock market, that's gambling. But so I would say with gambling, maybe you would win, but I would definitely be careful with that because sometimes people start to do it too much, and especially if they do win, they may think that they're going to win every time, and then that could be disastrous. So I wanted to give you some dates of Jupiter's activities in 2022. I mean, it will still be in Aries in 2023, but I just kind of was focusing on 2022 for now. The initial run of it. So it's going to enter Aries on May 10th, and it will stay there. It will get to the 8-degree mark of Aries. And then on July 28th, it's going to retrograde. When a planet retrogrades, it starts losing degrees, so it doesn't advance anymore. And so it actually goes back into sign of Pisces, and this will happen on October 28th. And I was mentioning that I think that's kind of unusual that I've been seeing the number 28 in terms of dates. I mean, in terms of degrees, degrees and dates, because it's at 28 degrees of Pisces. I should look up the numerology of the number 28. And then, so it goes direct on the 23rd of November, which is very interesting because this is the new moon in Sagittarius. So for Sagittarians, this is our new moon at a very early degree of Sag, by the way. So for many Sages, the new moon in Capricorn on December 23rd will be more, I think will feel more like the beginning of that new cycle for Sages. Of course, your solar return will be that as well if you're Sun in Sag. And then it goes on the 20th of December. It goes back into Aries. So it finishes the year in Aries. And then, I think I am going to figure out when it in 2023. I haven't been doing that. I probably should have been doing that. Okay, it's going to be on May 16th of 2023 that Jupiter goes into Taurus. So that is, as I record this, about 13 months from now. But of course, like I said, we do have a little bit of Jupiter back in Pisces. So that's what I have for you, Sag. I hope that this, you liked what you heard here. Remember that this is a general forecast because you're going to have different degrees of sun or rising. So your chart is going to look different, and all these dates will be different for when this all occurs, but it's in a general vicinity, so it's still helpful. If you would like me to look at your Jupiter transits and the other transits that you're experiencing, you can check out my readings that I offer. I also offer it in tandem with chart analysis, a double reading, 2 hours for special price, called my deep dive reading, and other types of readings. You can find out more information at the link below. I'm at RainaMoonAstrology.com. Take care. Bye.